Welcome to My CIRS Story, episode number 9. It's untitled as of right now, but by the time I finish, I'll have a title. Okay, hey, I'm Ren, surrendered. I use they pronouns. Welcome to my CIRS Story series. I started doing this a little over a year ago, and originally it was on my Instagram Live, and then I moved it over here to YouTube, but I put it on private just for my patrons on Patreon, and then just a couple weeks ago I decided to make them live to the general public. So the ones that you've been seeing, and I see some of you have been watching from a couple weeks ago, are actually a year old. And so I think that what I want to do with this episode is just kind of catch people up. So if you're completely new here and just stumbling upon this video for the first time ever, I am Ren. I'm a human who is living with and learning about chronic illness. I was diagnosed with chronic inflammatory response syndrome in September of 2021, and these series it's called My CIRS Story. CIRS is short for chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and it just kind of chronicles some of the different pieces of life I guess that I've encountered since my diagnosis. And today I want to talk and integrate some more of my other diagnoses into there. I realize this is called My CIRS Story, but over the last couple of years I've actually uncovered a couple of more diagnoses, as I'm sure some of you with some other folks that are battling chronic illness, I don't always like to use the word battling. Living with, learning about, loving with chronic illness. I'm sure you can probably relate to, you uncover one diagnosis and then there's another and there's another, and they all kind of play with each other on this playground that is your body and your life, right? So in talking about some updates from the past year to kind of catch you up, it's going to be disjointed. I don't think I'm going to follow a linear, like, September 5th, this thing happened. I'm just going to kind of tell you things as they came to me, because that's how I function. And hopefully people can get from this what they need. As I've said with any of my other videos, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a certified mental health professional, though I am a certified life coach and spiritual coach now, which is part of my updates. But any of the information that I give to you is about my own personal story. I'm an expert in my own health and healing, and if the awareness about my story helps others and brings awareness to other people, great. If you're just watching it to get a laugh and watch me like strum random chords that I don't even know on my ukulele that are really out of tune, cool. If that's what you're here for, great. Whatever brought you here, welcome. So let me think. The last year of my life. Okay, so I mentioned that I got a coaching certification, and that feels maybe like an important place to start. I've seen this journey with some other folks who have had life-changing diagnoses where we get put out of work for a really long time. I'm going on 2 years almost of being unemployed or underemployed because medical bills aren't cheap, and we oftentimes, because of physical symptoms, can't really make it to your daily grind, whatever that is. So we stop. And for me, what I'm realizing is that my illness is where a lot of my creativity also lived. And I'm wondering if other people can relate to that. I saw this meme the other day or something um, that was about putting your pain and your emotions into art, into expression, into creativity, into something that lives outside of your body. And I wonder if that can resonate with other people, because oftentimes it can be a really scary place to live in bodies that experience chronic illness or chronic pain, bodies that are disabled, bodies that are just kind of tossed to the side from mainstream culture. And so when we find whatever that is, an outlet for those emotions, for some people it's meditation and exercise, and some people it's some sort of a passion or a calling, some people it's music and art and dancing and being silly. I just think that those spaces are really important, and those are really important outlets. I just use important a couple of different times. Really effective outlets for our emotions. I'm going to get up and get a drink of water because I realized I didn't prepare myself super well for this. So I'm going to grab a glass of water and hold tight. I'll sit you right here with my ukulele for a minute. All right. So, I'm a little distracted because I'm having a co-working time with a buddy right now, and so they're actually right down here on the screen next to me, and can probably see me gesturing to them right now. But that's actually a really cool thing that's come the last year, is just finding different ways to connect with people when I can't in person. And so this buddy and I, every Sunday, we come here and we co-work together. And so they are co-working with me while I make this video, and Mimi is coming to say hi, perhaps. No, she's in search of food. So let's start here. The end of 2022, I'll get to the coaching stuff, this leads to it. The end of 2022 was a little bit of a tumultuous time for me. I found myself, I don't want to give out too many details about this, but I think just a basic overview is I found myself in what was a really physically great living environment for me, mold-wise and toxicity-wise there, but was a very emotionally unsafe environment for me. And yeah, I know you felt it too, right? The end result of that being that in December I was given a month to leave, and then that kind of shortened to on Christmas weekend I was told to get out in a few days. So the end of 2022 was pretty, I went out with a bang, let's just say. And I use humor when I'm talking about it because that's how I bring levity to any situation, and I don't want to make light of it, but that's just how I can talk about it right now. I also, my heart goes out to anyone who's been in any sort of an unsafe housing situation, especially those of us that are living with chronic illness, CIRS, and other co-infections, when we just don't really have that many other places, that many other options to go. But and I don't want to say but, I don't want to minimize it. And one of the amazing things that came out of that time frame was the rally of community support around me, and these kitty babes. So there was, my love, what do you need to say about this? Come. You can be involved in this too. You're always welcome. Would you like to come up with me? So what was I saying? Community support. I distract myself with my cats. So community support came in the end of December. I'm just gonna keep saying the words community support over and over again. Sweetie, I gave you a lap. Would you like it? I think she just wants my undivided attention. Come on. So, the community support that came through when I was, so I had people locally and from afar that were brainstorming different places for me to live, everywhere from like, could we get a hotel room for me and the cats to stay in for a while, to, could someone get me a tent and I could stay in my friend's mom's backyard here? My friend's mom was even looking up, like, how do we build a tiny home in my backyard? Can we build some sort of a little structure for you? Can we get a canvas tent that's like a little bit bigger? How would we heat it in the winter? It was just, for how shitty of a situation it was, I really have to say that the community rallied around me, and I was really grateful for that. I had another friend, a new acquaintance, who when the heat was starting to be controlled in my home, I had no control over it. I was locked out of it. She bought me a heating pad and sent it to me so I could have that like in my bed at night. And that was really wonderful. So the end result of all of this was that I ended up in this apartment that I'm in right now. Clearly, I'm in a home. I'm in a building. I found a guarantor to sign a lease with me and to agree to pay for this apartment through the next year, through this next January. I moved all of my stuff in all by myself. Had no furniture. My community and my family helped furnish the place. Excuse me. And I'm feeling distracted by my cat. But let me get grounded. I'm realizing talking about this is a little hard, so I'm trying to figure out if I can fast forward to something else. Yeah. It's also very windy outside, so my cat is definitely reacting to the wind. My love. My love, my love, my love. She keeps me. She keeps me. What do you keep me? Yeah. There she goes. I think she's settling down. So another good thing besides getting an actual apartment and a place to live, which I am so grateful for, is that there was enough extra money left over from people just rallying that I was able to enroll in a coaching program. And I say enough extra money because, loosely, because I had a choice. I could either put that money towards my survival for the next maybe 3 months. It was probably like 3 months worth of living. Or I could put it into this coaching program to hopefully invest in longer term survival and maybe thriving. These are some of the decisions that I'm sure if you are another person experiencing chronic illness, these are just some of the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And this is me coming from a very privileged place. I know people who do not have the access to money or community support that I do, and have to make really different decisions. And I really don't want my story to be representative of everybody. And then there's other people who have access to way more than me, and way more the ability to make more expensive decisions than me because their money is more abundant and flowing, and or they can work more consistently or in different ways. So that's just my story. That's what I chose to do with the extra cash that came through. And I set out to get certified as a life coach and a spiritual coach. And I just finished that certification the end of July 2023. There's like trees dancing outside and she's reacting to them. I wonder if I can actually turn so you can see her. Yeah. So that's what's happening over there. So we've been in this home right here for almost 9 months now, since the end of December 2023. And that's the longest that my sweets. I know it's big wind out there. Yeah. There she goes. She's laying down now. And this has been the longest we've been anywhere in the last 2 years. I had 2 different homes that I was in for a period of 7 months. We made it 7 months, and then had to move for one reason or another. And when I hit the 7-month mark here, I was like, what's going on? Do I gotta move? No, I'm still here. Although interestingly enough, at the around the 7-month mark is when I discovered that the home that I'm living in currently has water damage. It's right over there. There's a washer and dryer in the closet, and the washer leaks. And it's leaked into the floorboards, and maintenance has told me there's nothing they can do about it. I've gone back and forth many times with them about many things. They're pretty responsive to a lot of stuff, but like most people that don't take water damage or mold illness seriously, they have just shrugged it off and told me there's nothing they can do, even though they know that it's a threat to my health. So what I'm choosing to do with the situation that I've found myself in is to stay here. My other options would be pretty much to be, again, in a tent in the middle of summer in the desert, in a heat wave through monsoons. So that doesn't seem like a viable option. That doesn't seem really great and healthy for my nervous system. And so I've chosen to stay. And this decision to stay actually coincides with an integration of another diagnosis. And that actually feels really grounding. Are you shocked? So my other diagnosis that I've integrated since the beginning of June 2023 is mast cell activation syndrome, or MCAS is what people call it. It's what I'll keep calling it from here on out, because mast cell activation syndrome is a mouthful. just like chronic inflammatory response syndrome. That's why we've got our acronyms. So MCAS is a word that I kind of heard whispered to me from other doctors as I explored lots of different doctors the last couple years. And finally, the beginning of June, I think I heard it for the third time. And, you know, sometimes third time's a charm. I was like, okay, I'm ready to accept this diagnosis and integrate it into my life. And I knew I was ready because as this doctor, this was on a video screen, as this doctor was sitting here, so gently and so tenderly trying to tell me about it, like you could tell that they were very trauma aware. I actually felt my body ease a little bit more, which is so wild, because this feels like a piece of the puzzle that I've been missing. I know I've explained my CIRS diagnosis in this way, and I think knowledge is power. I think knowledge can be medicine, if not overdosed on, and that's what this was. So again, I'm not a doctor. This is not the official definition, or it is what I am telling you that I know of the definition of MCAS. So I understand that our mast cells are like helper cells. When infection or illness arises in the body, the mast cells will send out certain response systems. So like histamine response, like swelling or rashes or inflammation or whatever, to help the body heal. And with mast cell activation syndrome, basically that whole system, all of the mast cells are on alert most of the time. And so this doctor, actually, I love it, described it to me as my mast cells basically vomit at the sight of any kind of external stimulation, even if it's like joy and excitement, anything that's gonna kind of like arouse the nervous system more so. My mast cells are like, we gotta send everything out. And especially, of course, for things like fear and anger and stuff like that. It's where you've probably seen in some of my other videos. I was looking to see if it's happening here, and even could happen in this video too. I have like a redness and a rash that kind of slowly builds up through my chest and into my neck and my face when I'm having a histamine response from the mast cells. And so how did I get on that train? Mast cells. Right, this was around the same time I learned about the water damage in my current home. And I'm trying to be careful with what I say here. The number one top thing that I, and probably many people, will encourage you to do if you can is to get the fuck out of mold or a water damaged building. I've also found myself really angry at this rhetoric because not all of us have that option. I mean, we do, but when the alternative is live in a tent in 110 degrees through a super bloom and monsoons, it doesn't really become as much of an option to leave. And so for me, I actually want to see a lot more resources out there for the people who are really wonderful humans. Like, we're not, I think people kind of play us off as like, oh my gosh, they should know better. We do know better. We also are choosing this method of survival instead of that one out there, outdoors. So I just wish there were more resources about how to live in mold and live in water damage. And what I can tell you about what I've been doing is there's been a shift from having this hyper-vigilance around cleaning and around mold protocols and around even the like medicines I'm taking. I'm shifting away from that, not disposing of it completely. It's still here. I still take my binders, and I'm shifting awareness more towards what is helpful for the mast cell, the histamine response, my nervous system, because MCAS impacts the autonomic nervous system, which houses our fight, flight, freeze response. And if I'm living in mold and that fight, flight, freeze response is activated all the time, then that sucks. I was going to try and be eloquent about it, but it sucks. And so some of the things I've chosen to do to help regulate and even heal my nervous system are, I haven't watched Netflix or Hulu or whatever video streaming since April or so it's been like 5 months maybe. No, probably like March actually. And these are all things that kind of just started happening naturally, kind of like when I gave up drinking throughout, like before my diagnosis, because my body just was like, no, that's not for us anymore. That's kind of what happened with Netflix. Might I go back and watch it someday? Sure. Am I doing it now? No. Social media I've had more reduced exposure to, though that's one's kind of the hardest to give up altogether. Taking a drink. And I've kept my weekly acupuncture treatments, which you can see. Got my cupping marks today. This was from last week. Acupuncture both helps me keep my detox pathways open and also helps with calming and regulating that autonomic nervous system. So I'm doing that. My acupuncturist has also recommended doing Qigong daily, which I have for the last at least 3 or 4 months. And they and I are both noticing a difference, just in sometimes in my posture, and also just in the ways that I'm responding to events in my life that have happened that would otherwise like devastate me. I've had a couple of really challenging events happen this summer, including the death of a really close friend, and I feel like I've been able to feel my emotions, really get into them, like, yeah, healthy amount of grief, right? And also nothing has pulled me completely under or taken complete control over this body as was the norm during the first part of my diagnosis, and especially before I was diagnosed. So what am I saying with that? The path that I am choosing towards healing right now is primarily nervous system regulation. Might I choose a different path in the future? Yeah. I mean, history tells me that I choose what's going to work for me. at the given moment, as I assume and would hope other people do too. There's so many different healing modalities out there, especially for those of us that have those chronic illnesses that are a little bit less known or understood. We kind of have to figure our own shit out, right? And so those are some of the ways. Another thing is the Safe and Sound protocol is something that I'm participating in right now. It was recommended to me by the doctor and the coach that gave me my third MCAS diagnosis. And I don't know the whole science behind it, but it's a group that is facilitated by an instructor who's trained in how to deliver this. But you listen with over-the-ear headphones. That sounds kind of cool. My voice is muffled when I put my hands over my ears. And you're listening to specifically curated music that produces tones, and I think and probably about vibrations that are soothing to the nervous system. So the idea is if you weren't properly attuned to as a child, that could be part of what brings MCAS up in you. But that this is kind of a resetting of our nervous system and attuning us to things, sounds, voices that are soothing. Mine, what I'm listening to, is just a classical music compilation. Is that the word? Yeah, compilation. Other ones do have lyrics to them. It's there's a kids list that has all childhood Disney songs, stuff like that, and then there's an adult list that has the Beatles and other artists on there. But they apparently, with the classic one, they kind of listen to the instruments and the tones and help them mimic the human voice, and it's just meant to kind of help reprogram, reattuned to a more safer orientation. And for me, the group aspect of it is also really incredibly healing. Through my coaching certification, again, without going into too much details, no, I will say this: my pronouns and my identity were not respected. This needs to be said. In the class that I was a part of, and it was an online group experience, there was also just a lot that was not consensual in the class around participation. And so this Safe and Sound protocol group that I'm a part of right now has been also really healing in that way, healing my orientation to groups. The facilitator, I can link to it in the notes here. The facilitator is so trauma aware and consent aware, and it's just an intimate little group, which is all part of the healing, and in addition to the really sciencey based in your ears, vagus nerve rewiring kind of thing. My sweets, would you like to come up this time? I know you were interested in it before. Yeah, I know. I'm aware that it's pretty windy outside. She's gonna come up. Yeah. Would you like to? There she is. Okay, so I feel like I want to wrap this up because I think my co-working time is going to be done soon, and also I might need to give this babe some more attention. I think those are the main highlights from the past year, and I will get into more specific just topics and stuff as I continue to make these videos. I've seen that people are actually watching them, and I'm hoping that means you're getting some value from these videos. So there's your update on the last year of my life. If you would like to see any other particular content, if there's anything I've mentioned in videos that you're like, ooh, could you go into that more? I'm happy to. Again, I am not a medical professional, not a mental health professional. I am a coach, but not a mental health professional. There's a line there, it's different. I'm happy to try and do that, or see if I have the capacity to do it. Yeah, I think a big part of the reason why I made these videos public is because I know there's been so much that I've been doing that feels like searching in the dark, like searching for community, searching for answers, and sometimes we find that in a YouTube video. Sometimes we find that in this stranger talking to us on the internet, and so if you found me here in that space, hey, I see you. You're not alone. As much as it feels like you are, as much as it feels like you're grasping in the dark, you're not. You're not alone. You are grasping in the dark. We are grasping in the dark. I don't want to minimize that experience, but you're not alone in that. And I just, my heart goes out to everybody who's experiencing chronic illness. I think there's going to be a lot more of it in years to come with long COVID, and I hope that we find ways, more kind of structural change, ways to support these shifts in our human bodies that are taking place, and that we learn to come back to presence a little bit more, that we learn to respect our bodies and the body out there, the land. Yeah, I think that's about it. I want to tend to this kitten over here, so I'm gonna go, but I'll catch you next time. And thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw here, go ahead and subscribe, and comment if you want to see something more, something different.